Captain America. This is Batman. Do you read me? Iron Man. Where are you? I need you. That Flash. He's always too fast. I can't see him. Oh, but I have Hollis. I thought this was a Batman interview.
Oh, almost. Well, welcome.
It's
Welcome to the Halas Wilbourn Show, where we welcome all successful people worldwide to share their stories. This show is devoted for entrepreneurs, celebrities, and people that want success in their lives. And today I have a very special guest, a very known man for over 47 years, known in Hollywood, Stephen Lambert.
hello, Hollis, and hello, everybody out there. It's a pleasure to see you. Pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for coming. So Steve, tell me something. Where are you from?
I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Came out to Los Angeles, California when I was 13. My parents tricked me. They said I was coming for vacation. Growing up in Brooklyn, New York, all your life, and then leaving you in a place that totally different, it took a little while to get used to.
Oh wow. So what was it like growing up in Brooklyn as a kid back in the 50s?
It wasn't like it is today. I mean, we were able to play outdoors. That's the first thing you think of. I mean, we had outside games, stickball. We had tops. We had yo-yos. We played in the snow. We played freeze tag, Ringalivio. We played a game named Skelly. You ever hear of a game named Skelly?
Stelly, no,
It's a
tell me about
very
it.
popular game in the East, especially in Brooklyn, New York, Chicago, Michigan, stuff like that. What you do is you paint a box in the middle of the street, any color paint, 6 by 6, 7 by 7, and then you put numbers in every corner. Number one, the opposite end. Number two, opposite, three, four. Then you take the middle sides and you put numbers. Then you take the middle and make a smaller box, like a 1 foot box, and you put a 6 inch box in that, and then you draw lines to make it kind of like a triangle. And you put numbers in there. Then the magic part is you take a bottle cap. This is very hip, very big game. Still to this day, back in Brooklyn, you take a bottle cap, soda cap, any kind, Coke, Seven Up, RC Cola. Look, everybody's going, "What the hell is RC Cola?" and you take a crayon, an ordinary crayon, and you take a cigarette lighter, and you melt or a match, and you melt the crayon in the bottle cap. It melts in there. You let it dry. It takes about 10, 15 minutes to dry. Gives it some weight, and then you shoot it. You see what I'm doing? You shoot it from one number to another, and of
Oh, you kind
course,
of kind of pluck it.
yeah, yeah. And if somebody's close to a number before you can shoot them out of there,
Oh
right?
wow,
And it,
very challenging game.
yes, and it just goes on to there, and it has, if I recall, like 32 numbers, and you got to go all the way around. Then you got to go backwards. It's a very big game back east. They'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna we're gonna check and see who's tuning in, who's chiming in. Maybe they'll have some questions later.
yeah.
Hey,
But you
so
have games. You had games like that all the time, and you had friends. You went out. Your parents, knew where you were all the time. If they needed you, they'd yell out the window. I lived in brownstones.
okay,
It's a series of about 6 to 8 people in these brownstones, and my parents were managers, and my grandparents were managers. So we had basements. They have no basements in here. So it was a whole lot different. Today the kids play inside video games. There's no games outside. We would go to the park, and play games in the park. Softball, was real big. It's outdoor games. It was nothing like today, unfortunately. That's why kids get into so much trouble these days.
so that
It's not my age. It's a fact.
so back then a kid could really be a kid. I bet you was probably some type of some daredevil back then, huh?
Well, I was, we used to have all kinds of games. I was voted the second fastest runner. There was a guy named Eugene Fish that always beat me out of everything. Became a great friend. Yeah. Even to this day, I talk to him a couple of times a year. But we had a little gang there. Like I don't know if you've heard about it. I don't know if you've ever seen them on TV. It's a very old TV show, The Dead End Kids. They were called the Barry Boys.
Oh,
You
the
know.
Boundary Boys.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
East, yeah, the East Side Kids. I remember that program.
That was the original name. And we had games like that, friendly games, normal games. You know, nothing with not. We got into a fight, it was with our fists, and then
Right.
after we fought, we became best friends. True.
That now that's the way you grow up.
Yes. Yes.
So during this transition from the streets of Brooklyn to the halls of Hollywood, tell me about your book that you have.
Well, I decided to write this book. I can't. I went into semi-retirement. I've done. I'm a physical stuntman, martial artist. I've done more physical work than five stuntmen put together. So I semi-retired early, and I decided I've been so blessed in my life, working nonstop for 40 plus years. Nothing in between, very little time in between that I've seen, done so much, gone to so many locations. I've always considered myself a people watcher. Whenever I was on the set, I always watched what people would do, from the stars to the prop guy. You know, and you always observe a lot. So when you're like that, you see a lot of things that you don't normally see. You always keep it in your memory. So I decided to write this book from when I grew up in Brooklyn. The experiences that you have. They're incredible experiences with friends, your little, love triangles, uh, so your friends that were bullies, but they were your friends. There was a guy I write in the book named Jeffrey Elkins. He was part of the game. He lived right across the street from me. You could see my window of my bedroom and his window of his bedroom. Brownstone streets in Brooklyn, they were very narrow, the streets. So, they were literally, you can, so to speak, reach, you know, across the street to hit to touch the other side, the other building, that kind of thing. So this guy, Jeffrey Elkins, we were 11, 12 years old, but he looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He looked like Hercules to us. He would pump weights, you know.
Oh
So
wow.
he was the boss of our gang. And if he told you to stay on your steps, your stoop, you stood on your stoop until he gave you permission to leave. So the guys like that, that you experienced, they were great friends, but if he was upset at you, he would tell you to stay on the stoop. Everybody would be playing, you'd have to stay on your stoop. And it was worse for me because he could stay in his bedroom and see me through his window.
Wow.
And then we had guys like Eugene Fish. Uh, he was an incredible drawer. He drew superheroes, comic books, and he taught us how. You know, and we filled a lot of time with that. And then there was the nerds. A guy named Neil. Who was the nerd, the smart guy of the bunch. You know, then there was Mordecai. Mordecai was the Jewish religious guy that always wore a yarmulke. You know, his
So
parents hated us, and they never wanted him to hang out with us, but he always did. And then there was like a guy named Arthur Schneider. This was the gang. Arthur Schneider.
how
He
many
was the guy
members?
we always protected. He was a little slow. So we would make fun of him. We would play with him. We would do dirty tricks on him, all in fun. As you read in the book, we played some really hysterical. Some people might say they're cruel jokes now. Back then, like I said, we always protected him. If somebody would go and bother him, we would protect them. But he was part of our gang, so we played a lot of tricks. And then there were the twerp twins. They were twins.
The Twerk Twins.
Yeah, we called them the twerp twins. And they were the comedians of the group. So we had our own little group, and that's who I grew up with, amongst
So
all the other people.
so you named quite a few guys. So it had to be about what 10 to 15 of you guys, right?
There was about 8, 9 of us. you know, that really hung out together, and then the mischief we got into and the things we did. I worked for the mafia when I was a kid. Now, when the people look and say, "Mafia? How could you work for the mafia at 9 and 10 years old?" It was normal. The mafia didn't only deal in, you know, big things.
Well,
They dealt
in,
in
in, in
small.
street business,
Yeah, 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 exactly. They dealt in small things like
community service.
exactly old lady pocketbooks. You know, I would I would work for them, and I would sell old lady pocketbooks. I don't know if you remember those old lady purses, those big things.
Yeah,
Uh,
kind of
I,
like a duffel bag.
yeah, yeah, the old lady pocketbooks. I would put them in an old shopping cart. Remember those old two-wheeled shopping carts that the elderly people used to walk around with to go shopping with? You could see through them. They're like mesh. I would
Yeah,
put them in there, and I also sold a dress, but they weren't called dresses. They were called muumuus.
a
You know,
moo
big baggy dresses, big baggy like just like bags that the elder people would wear. Your grandmother or your aunt, would wear. They were called muumuus, and I would put them in. I would knock on doors, and I would make. I, at a 19, 10 years old, I would make a grand a week
Wow, that was a lot of money back in the late
in the
'50s,
50s.
early
Yes,
yeah, early '60s.
yes,
Oh
50s,
wow,
60s, and then
kind
I
of like the Bronx Tale, huh?
yes, very, very much
Very, very simple.
situations just like that, but maybe in a little lighter form. They were wonderful experiences, and it sounds like today it sounds maybe a little scary, but in those days it was typical. And I had to stop working for the mafia. One day, my mother found two guns in my dresser drawer under my clothes, and I got a beating, and she said no more. It's the first time my mother ever beat me. It's usually my father's
Yeah,
task.
well, well, you know what they say. Once you're in, you're in. You can't
Yeah,
leave.
yeah, and it was all over. Couldn't work for them anymore, except on the 4th of July. She let me sell fireworks. I made my money on fireworks.
Oh wow,
It's a great
that
memory.
is that's very that's an interesting story. It kind of piggybacks on a story I read in your book about you and uh, Sven
Ah, a very close and dear friend. He's like,
Arnold Schwarzenegger, right?
yeah, he's Sven Thorson. He's been a childhood friend with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Grew up together. When Arnold came out here to try to get in the movies, a couple of years later, Sven came when he made it. And he's just about, if he wasn't working by himself, he worked in every Arnold Schwarzenegger picture that Arnold did. And they would bring me along. Arnold had a stunt double called Joe Kramer, still to this day. And it's a very small world. Before they got together, Joel and I were roommates. We got in the movie business together, so to speak. You know, and we were roommates and best friends. So that's how that connected. Joel went on to do an Arnold Schwarzenegger film, and he would bring me on, and that's how I met Sven and Arnold. Every actor who is a big celebrity has kind of like a clique,
Yeah,
and
they have a inner circle, you
yes,
might say.
yes,
Hey, was you a part of the inner circle there with Arnold
I was
Schwarzenegger?
very blessed. Arnold took a liking to me because of my martial arts and my stunt ability. I was the monkey of the group, the fighter of the group, and I was the only small, skinny. He called me Gumby. He liked to call me Gumby a lot. You know, because I was always so flexible and martial arts and the skinny one. Joel, Sven, and Arnold, they're very big guys. So I, Arnold's clique was about a group of about 6 to 8 guys, and I did like 12 pictures for Arnold, and a picture lasts 3 to 4 months. And I have some wonderful stories with Arnold and Joel and Sven. They're incredible stories. Very
What,
fun.
tell me what was it like working with Arnold Schwarzenegger? I mean,
Eh, it's a lot of people say, "Oh, people are nice. He's a nice guy," but he really is. It's very special about Arnold, and most actors aren't like this. He's wonderful to not only his cast but the crew. I'm talking about craft service, uh, transportation, props, wardrobe. You know, he's the same, always very friendly. And if you're really in the inner circle, if he really likes you, it's constant joking. There's
oh,
always jokes. There's always a sense of humor. There's always, making you suffer, putting you in a position that
that's
something's going to happen or somebody's going to yell at you. Like there was a circumstance there one time where I did a I did a it's a very famous scene. I'm playing. You can call it maybe a guy going to work or a guy in college, and I'm going up an escalator, and Arnold uses me as a shield. Why 5, 6 guys come and shoot him up? So he uses me as a shield, and
did you
the,
have any protective gear on?
this is where it gets dicey. The director on this show was a director named Paul Verhoeven. Now he was yeah, I call it a short man's complex, small man's complex. He was it wasn't a very nice guy, and he didn't know how to talk to people. Never to the stars, always to the underlings. But this scene, he wanted triple shotgun loads on my chest. I get shot like 10, 12 times. Now, triple shotgun loads, let me give you an example. If I stood in front of you, right, and if I say, I want you to punch me as hard and as fast in the chest as you can, well, that's a triple shotgun load. That's triple. Now, usually you have protection on you. You have rubber padding, to absorb the shock. Well, he saw that. The director saw that and said, "I don't want that stuff on you. I just want the squibs on you, right?" And I try to explain to him that you need padding, because I'm going to play dead. I'm going to get shot and use me as a shield, right? So anyway, we went back and forth, and you try to explain to the director. Usually a stuntman, when he's a stuntman, he knows a little bit about action more than the director. So I try to explain it to him. So in front of everybody, right? He yells out, "Oh, look, a stuntman now is telling me how to direct. He thinks he can direct." And I look at Arnold and Sven, and they're laughing their ass off, all through this. They know what's going on, and
So
they're
they
laughing. And I go, "No, no, no, no. Okay, fine, I'll take it off. I'm Mr. Macho." So, scene comes, they roll cameras, call action, stuff goes on before. Arnold uses me as a shield. I take the bullet hits. Now, after about 4 or 5 bullet hits, I'm supposed to play dead, right? So I'm dead. And he's still using me as a shield. But let me remind you again, you know, I put
ouch.
myself in front of you and I asked you to punch me as hard as you could in the chest. Now, when you're playing dead and you can't see what's coming, you don't know what's coming. So the jolt of those squibs going off made me flinch. You know. So after it was over, he yells, "Cut, print." He comes over and he goes, you were moving," and I look at him and I go, "Well, Paul, the concussion, the vibration, I can feel it. You know, let's just say the body's just moving, right? Just moving from the concussion, from the jolt. You know, just think about it, Paul. If you shoot somebody with a shotgun, they're not going to stay still, even if they're dead. They're going to move.
You're gonna
Just play
twitch a
it,
little,
yeah, just play it that way. Oh,
right?
look, he's trying to tell me how to direct again. And I look at Arnold. He's just cracking up. He's just cracking up. So a couple of months later, there was an article in a newspaper, and they were interviewing Paul Verhoeven. And I've got the article someplace. And what are they talking about? The man who was flinching, when he's supposed to play dead. And I'm listening to Paul Verhoeven, and I want to go through this. I want to go through the screen to choke him because he's not telling the real story. He's always saying, "Oh, I tried to get him to stay still, but he didn't stay still." Why don't you explain the details? You know the details.
Well,
You have to go there. It's very funny.
that seems you've worked with a lot of people. The list is as long as my arm. You worked with people like Danny DeVito,
Yes,
James Woods.
yes.
You want to tell me about it was a movie back in, I want to say it was in '95, Casino.
Oh, yes, with De Niro and Pesci.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So what was it like working with those guys on set? Because
yeah, yeah.
Arnold seemed to be the friendly guy, so I'm sure at some point in your career you experienced one of the diva actors.
Yeah, quite a bit on the show. What I found very, very curious is that there was one point I mentioned I was a people watcher, and every day I found it very curious. Well, when you walk around with your friends or the people you're walking with, you don't play follow the leader. You're in a group where one's ahead, sometimes one's not, one's in back, one's talking in front, the other one you switch off. It's normal. It just happens. But there was a pecking order on that show, which I found very interesting, very fascinating. You know, it was the director, then it was De Niro, then it was Pesci, and then it was James Woods. And whenever they walked, and they constantly walked together, it was in that order. Whenever they sat, it was in that order. And and I asked Jimmy about it because Jimmy and I have been together forever, 40 years. He's like a big brother to me. Um, and I asked Jimmy about it. I said, "Well, how come you guys always walk in a line that's always the same?" You know, and he said, "Well, that's De Niro's thinking." And I went, "Oh," and I didn't ask too many questions. Can't ask too many questions. You know,
Did
just
you
De
ever find
Niro.
out later what did it mean?
He just wanted it in that order. You
Oh
know,
wow.
I can't. As close as you are, you don't want to get too detailed and get too personal. You
Yeah.
know, because you always have to have that certain amount of respect and privacy. But I always thought that very strange. They were once sitting together. I'm a picture taker. From the very beginning of my career, I always managed to have a camera with me. But that was one show I had to hide out to take pictures. First time I went to take a picture, they were all sitting in their chairs, and I wanted to take a picture. And I pulled out my camera, and I was in front of them, and all of a sudden, De Niro stands up, and it's in the book. Don't take my picture. Don't take my picture. And I look, and I'm stunned. And I look at Jimmy, and Jimmy's sitting there, and he's going, I put it down, and I go, okay. It's very strange, very strange. I had that happen. Yeah, yeah. I won't tell you story. I won't get ahead of the stories, but later on, if we do some other stuff, or if you manage to have read it now, I did a movie with Keanu Reeves with Anthony Quinn, and there's a very funny story about picture taking in that. You know, we'll get to it if you know the story now. If you have it down, I'll talk about it. If not, we'll do it some other time. But Anthony Quinn, oh, what a character he is.
Well, what I'd like to know more about is like when you're out with those guys and um, you've come accepted in their group. What was the type of things that you guys went out and do?
Arnold had a restaurant cigar place here in California, in Beverly Hills, and I was very honored and very thrilled that every time he went out, he would call a group of us, and we would go smoke cigars and eat dinner. And all the movie stars would go out to this cigar restaurant because it was Arnold's. Doesn't have it anymore, but he had it for like 30 years, and that was his hangout. And that was very special if you got invited over to Arnold's table, if he called you up, or Sven called you up. Sven or Joel always did the calling. Steve, it's time for cigar night. You come on down, okay? Your toothpick, okay?
Hey, so did you ever do impersonations of Arnold in front of Arnold?
Oh, all the time. We would make. It's one thing great about Arnold. You know, he constantly, if you were in his group, he constantly made fun of you. A fan of everybody, but he'd let you make fun of him too. You know, all the time. Like yeah, I had a thing. They would always put me up front. Like if they met another stunt guy and if he was big, Arnold was trying to say, Steve, come here, and the guy would, or another bodybuilder. Arnold constantly had Franco, the bodybuilder named Franco. He's about 5'7", but he's built like the Hulk, you know. And we were working together one time, and he wanted to introduce me to Franco, and I came over and he introduced me to him, and he said, Franco, put this cigar in your mouth. And Franco, what for? Just put it in. He looked at me, Steve, now kick it out. And before Franco could take it out of his mouth, I kicked it out because it was always a setup, you know. And God forbid I would miss, you know. That was a constant joke every time Arnold was there, And every once in a while I would say, you hit him too much. Steve, I got to stop giving you cigars. They're very expensive. Yeah. So we played jokes in each other.
So so you've worked with a lot of legends.
Yeah.
You're a legend yourself. But
Far
what
from it,
what
my friend.
what is your definition of legend of legend?
Oh,
I mean, what do legend mean to you?
that's very hard to explain. And if you would have asked me a long time ago, I would have been very confused, but maybe gave you a different answer. But a legend is a good person, somebody who does and tries to do the right thing in their soul, in their heart, consistently. You can make mistakes, you know, but you treat people with respect. You're a team player, you know. You help people, you do good deeds, you say good things about people, you treat people, you don't possess a a part of something negative that you become selfish and greedy, and you do things that doesn't present that persona of being a legend. And that's it's not what you've done, you know, movies or competition, baseball players and football players, actors, stuntmen, whatever. It's what you have inside your heart that makes you a legend. And if you would, like I said, if you would ask me that years ago, I would have gave you a different answer.
I'm
But
sure that a lot of actors, like in the beginning when you first meet them, they start off okay, but then later on, you might see a change in them. Have you ever experienced anything like that on the set or off the set?
yes, and not only from actors, from producers, from friends, from other stunt people, from martial artists, very famous martial artists. I have a very wonderful story. American Ninja. I did that, and there was
That's
a
what Mike Stone.
yeah, he was he was working on it. They brought him down. Michael Dudikoff brought him down to train him, and before we went to the Philippines, they had told me, and I said, okay, fine. That'll just give me more time to do what I need to do because these ninja pictures, they were a handful because not only I was a stuntman, but I doubled the good guy, I doubled the bad guy, I doubled the nondescript guy, the guy that would get hit by a car, I doubled the other ninjas, I doubled the girl, I doubled, like take American Ninja. I doubled Tadashi Tamashita, I doubled Michael Dudikoff, I doubled 40 other nondescript ninjas. I doubled Judy Aronson, you know. So and I would have to go to a scene and develop it and come up with an action scene. And then sometimes I would have to direct second unit because we always had multiple units. The first unit director, who was just a wonderful, gifted, great friend, Sam Furstenberg, he would give me certain scenes, pieces of action to go do. So I had my hands full. So I said, good, I don't have to, train, look after Michael Dudikoff. So that was fine. So, but as you read in the book, my experiences with Mike Stone were very unfortunate, and it broke my heart, because there again, we just got finished talking about legends, you know,
Yeah.
in name only, he's a legend. I mean, my God, the guy knew Bruce Lee, the guy knew Ed Parker, you know, the guy worked with Elvis Presley, you know, they call him a legend. But getting back to what I spoke to you when you asked me about what is a legend, you know, that's what he is. The things that I said a legend shouldn't be, and it really surprised me. And you try to fix it. You try to teach somebody. You try to help somebody because, yeah, he's a legend. He has much more experience in the martial art world. He's been in it a lot, in it a lot longer than I was, you know. So you want to give him that respect, you know. But then when you meet somebody and you find out what they're really like, they're not a team player. They try to cause trouble, you know. And when you say, look, you have a conversation and say, look, you know, you're a great part of the team. I want you to be part of the team, you know, but you're unfamiliar with this kind of work, you know. And when you try to explain it to them, and they have a different outlook on what they do and what they know, and you try to help him and say, listen, I'll guide you, I'll help you. If you have good ideas, I'll take them because that's part of teamwork. But you can't go over my head. You can't do things, you know, that this is a professional business, you know.
Teamwork make the dream work, right?
Yes. And it was I won't get into it completely, but it was a constant annoyance, annoying thing that he kept on doing, where ultimately, I had to get him released because he wouldn't stop. As you read in the book, we got into a confrontation, you know, and it wasn't. We didn't throw punches, but we came really close. And after 3 or 4 times, trying to guide him uh, to do things correct, and there can only be one head of a department on a movie, and I was, God bless, chosen by the producer, Malachim Golan, and the director, you know. So, it's just like I can't step on anybody's toes when it comes to the director or the producer. I can have discussions with them, but after I have the discussion, and if they tell me one thing, if that's what it ends up being, I have to stick with that.
Yeah.
Where Mike Stone, once you get into the book, you'll understand. And it was just very depressing when you
Well,
see somebody that has done so much, and the audience out there, thinks that a person is a legend. There's more to being a legend than winning tournaments, than working with somebody like Bruce Lee or Ed Parker.
now, uh,
I hope I explained that correct.
yes, you did a great job. What I wanted to get ask you next was, I know you worked with Jim Brown, Fred Williamson, Jim
Yes,
Kelly.
yes.
Um, um,
That was
what was
beautiful.
it?
That was
Three
beautiful.
the Hard Way and Enter the Dragon.
Yeah, yeah.
Brandon Lee.
Yes. Uh, yeah, you mentioned Jim Brown, Fred Williamson, Jim Kelly.
You ever
Yeah.
doubled for a black guy?
No, no. And even when I first started in the business, that was a no-no. Before me, they did that, but it started being a no-no, which was right. It should be a no-no when I got in the business, but no, I never did that. But I thought we were going to lead into Three the Hard Way, but that's okay. It's some great, wonderful story. I love that movie.
I haven't quite gotten into that yet. But however, where could the people find your book? Uh,
Oh, thank you. It's Amazon.com. It's called Stephen Lambert, From the Streets of Brooklyn to the Halls of Hollywood. And it's a book like no other. Like we are talking about producers, directors, stunt guys, actors. You read, it's boring.
it's
You know,
well, it's
they
action packed. It's full of stories, and
full of stories, a lot of pictures, but compared to the stories, not so many. And that's what I wanted to do. I wrote that book like I was writing a script for a movie. In fact, I have a director who read the book, who absolutely loves it, who is going to make 846 pages into 118 pages of script. And what,
yes, it is. It is very hefty.
yeah, a script, the maximum pages to a script is only 118 pages. So I look at him and I say, good luck. You know, how are you going to arrange this? There's so much. What are you going to pick? So he said, I got a perfect idea. And I said, what is it? I said, the only thing I'm going to tell you is that it's going to be a fairy tale.
Oh
Fairy-
wow, that
So
that
I thought about it for a second. I said, wow, now that's a great idea. So I'm excited. He's going to make the book into a script, and we'll see where it goes.
hey, I would love to have an opportunity to audition for a part.
We'll take it as it comes. There's going to be an awful lot of parts.
What
You
what
just read that book, and there's going to be four Stevens. There's going to be Brooklyn Steven, because I was 9 to 13 there, and then there's going to be when I came to Los Angeles from about 13 to about 19, and then there's going to be a transition, another Steven, from 19 to like 25,
25?
30, you know, because I looked very, at 35, I was getting carded. I always looked like I was under 18,
Hey,
you know.
well, I don't know what your secret is, but you look great for a guy that's 67 years old.
Two secrets: martial arts and women's loofers. You know what a loofer is?
No,
You
but
know those, C pads that women use? The coarse C pads that women use for cleaning? You've never
uh-huh.
seen them? Next time you're in a Save-Ons or in a supermarket, look in the ladies department and ask for a loofah.
A
And it's
Luther,
a loofah,
a Lufer.
yeah. And it's a woman's coarse pad cleaning. You have to soap it, and it's the best thing to keep your
Oh,
skin.
exfoliate.
Yeah, that's my secret.
Yeah.
You know? And I got the loofah from my wife a long time ago when I married. And the martial arts when you work out, it keeps you young.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, well, you want to tell us where the people could find you on social media or?
I'm a rhino. I'm old fashioned, so I'm only on Facebook. So many people ask me to go on Instagram and all the other ones, but I Facebook is enough for me. That's all I can handle. Simple Facebook. I'm a
Hey, well,
simple guy when it comes to those things.
sim- you, Facebook is the easiest way to get your point across.
That's it. Once you get into all those Instagrams and all those. You have to manage a lot. So yeah, I had a guy who's going to interview me next month, and he asked me for my website. You know, I said, man, I haven't had a website in 20 years. You know, the only website I have is my Facebook page. Scroll through that, and you'll get information like crazy.
Well, well, Stephen Lambert, from the streets of Brooklyn to the halls of Hollywood, go out and pick you up a copy. You can find them on Facebook because the, the other social medias might be a little bit too much for you.
Yeah,
Hey, but
yeah,
Steve, I'd like to thank you for coming on the Halas Wilbourn show, and I would love to have you again as a guest again, and we can go over some more stories and talk about some more things that you got coming up. Because I do understand that you have a son that you're putting in the bit that's going into the business, following in his dad's footstep that you're training. You want to give us a brief little story about that?
yeah. He's 24 years old now, and he's been working for the last 2 years, doing wonderful. He's been training since he was about 6 years old, and the little shit is a little me when I was his age. You know, these days, I used to jump over a 5 foot fence like it was nothing, one hop. You know, he does it, and I have to climb over. And he makes fun of me. He makes fun of his old man. He's doing well. He's got a lot of things going. He just got finished working on a TV show where he played a transvestite, and
Okay.
it was so funny. He sent me some pictures. You know, that's what we have to do sometimes. We have to get into some outfits that are pretty unusual. He called me up. He goes, they're making me wear high heels. You know, I can't. These high heels hurt me more than if I got hit by a car. You know, look at what's in a guy's mind. The high heels hurt more. He's in more pain wearing high heels than getting hit by a car. But he's doing well, and yeah. Well, next time we talk, anytime. There's so many stories. I mean, I would have loved to tell you that Three the Hard Way with Jim Kelly and Fred Brown and Fred Williamson and Jim Brown. It's an incredible story, and yeah, just to leave you with a hanger. I had no idea that they were in this movie when I got it. You get called by a producer or a production manager to come in to interview, and when I came in to interview, I had no idea those three were in the movie. The producer or the production manager, they don't tell you about the movie. Just come in and we'll talk. And when I came in, first three guys I met was those guys, and my mouth dropped, and I was in awe. And guys like Jim Brown, Jim Kelly, Fred Williamson, class acts. What I went through in that production manager, we'll talk about next time.
All right. Well,
In
thank you
that
so.
meeting,
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Steve. You've been an amazing guest, and I'm sure you have a lot of things that's coming up that we'll be talking about later. And I'll definitely be in touch.
Hollis, thank you very much for this interview. I appreciate it, and it was a blast. And everybody out there, I thank you. I hope you get the book. Again, it's called Stephen Lambert, From the Streets of Brooklyn to the Halls of Hollywood. And I
And
mean, you're not going to be able to put it down. All kinds of stories, shocking, surprising, drama, funny. You'll love it. Thank you, Hollis. Take
I
care, and
thank
have a
you
good
so much.
weekend.
And we'll be in touch, Steve.
Thank you, my friends. God
Thank
bless.
you. Well, thank you all for joining us here at the Halas Wilbourn Show. Steve Lambert he's a storyteller. He's an awesome man. He's been in the business for over 47 years. I would love to interview him again. So, just to bring you back up to speed, you can also you can donate here for the Halas Wilbourn Show to help support me here to carry on the business so we can continue to have awesome interviews like that And you can donate at hohmp.com/donate. That's hohmp.com/donate. And thank you all so much for joining me, Halas Wilbourn, on the Halas Wilbourn Show.